Amara woke up very early that morning. The sun was just beginning to rise, and the light came through the window in soft, golden colors. She could hear the birds singing outside, and somewhere in the distance she heard the sound of the market beginning to come alive. But Amara did not care about any of these things right now. Her mind was only on one thing: today was the day. Today was her 6-year anniversary with Tund. She sat up slowly in the bed, careful not to wake him. Tund was still sleeping soundly beside her, his face peaceful and calm. Amara looked at him for a long moment. 6 years. 6 years had passed since the day they got married under the big mango tree in their small Nigerian town. She could still remember that day so clearly. She remembered how nervous she had felt, how her hands had shaken as she wore the beautiful white wrapper that her mother had sewn for her. She remembered how Tund had smiled at her with such love in his eyes. That smile had made her feel like the most beautiful woman in the world. But the past 6 years had not been easy. There had been many difficult times. 2 years after their marriage, Tund had tried to start his own business. He had borrowed money from the bank and from family members. He had worked so hard, and Amara had believed in him completely. She had believed that he would be successful. But the business had failed. Many people had lost money because of it. Tund had become very sad and depressed. He did not want to leave the house for many days. It was Amara who had helped him get through that dark time. She had held his hand and told him that everything would be okay. She had worked extra hours at the market to help pay back some of the money that he owed. She had never complained. She had only wanted to support him. Then, 3 years into their marriage, something even more terrible had happened. Amara had become pregnant. She and Tund had been so happy. They had told everyone in the family that a baby was coming. But at 5 months, Amara had lost the baby. It had been one of the saddest days of her life. She had cried and cried. Tund had been away on a business trip when it happened, and she had suffered alone in the hospital. When he finally came home, he had tried to comfort her, but the pain was too deep. For months, Amara had felt broken inside. But slowly, with time and with Tund's love, she had begun to heal. Their marriage had become even stronger during that time because they had held each other through the pain. There had been other challenges too. The dry season had come, and the garden that they depended on for food had become dry and brown. Money had been tight. There were times when they had not known how they would pay for rent or food. But they had gotten through it together. Amara would wake up before dawn and go to the market. She would sell vegetables and cloth to other women. She would work all day under the hot sun, and her hands would become rough and tired. But she did all of this because she loved Tund and wanted to help their family. Now, as she sat in the bed on this special morning, Amara felt grateful for all of it. The good times and the hard times had all helped to make their love strong. She had grown to love Tund more with each year that passed, not less. This was why today was so important to her. She got out of bed quietly and went to the small bathroom. She looked at herself in the mirror. She wanted to look beautiful for Tund today. She took her time washing her face with cool water. Then she began to braid her hair. She had bought some golden beads from the market the day before, and now she carefully threaded them into her braids. As she worked, she thought about all the things she had planned for today. The dinner, the family gathering, the moment when she and Tund would be together in front of everyone they loved. After she finished her hair, Amara went to the kitchen. She had already prepared everything yesterday, but there was still much work to do. She had bought fresh vegetables at the market: tomatoes, peppers, onions, and fresh ginger. She had a chicken that she would cook slowly in a rich sauce. She would make jollof rice, the way that her mother had taught her, with butter and spices and a little bit of tomato paste. She would also make fried plantains and a special soup made with green leafy vegetables and meat. As Amara worked in the kitchen, her heart felt full and happy. She sang a little song as she cut the vegetables. She thought about how much Tund liked her cooking. She remembered times when he would come home tired from work, and she would have a hot meal ready for him. He would sit down and eat everything, and then he would tell her how good it was. Those moments had meant so much to her. By afternoon, Amara had finished most of the cooking. The kitchen smelled amazing. The pots were full of good food, and everything was ready to be heated up later when the family arrived. She had also cleaned the entire house. She had swept the floors and wiped the tables. She had arranged the chairs and put clean cloth on them. She had bought candles the day before, and now she placed them around the room. They would give the house a warm and beautiful glow when the sun went down. As the sun began to move lower in the sky, Amara changed her clothes. She had a new wrapper that she had bought specially for this day. It was made of beautiful cloth, with bright colors and patterns that showed the stories of their people. She tied it carefully around her waist and wore a matching top. She looked at herself in the mirror and felt pleased with what she saw. Around 5 o'clock in the afternoon, the first family members began to arrive. First came Amara's mother, carrying gifts and smiling widely. Then came her father and her younger sister Zainab. Then came aunts and uncles and cousins. Soon the house was full of noise and laughter and hugging. Everyone brought something, food or drinks or gifts. The house began to feel alive with celebration and joy. Amara moved around the house, greeting everyone and making sure that they felt welcome. Her mother came to her and held her hand. "You look so beautiful today," her mother said. "I am so proud of you, my daughter. You have been a good wife to Tund. You have worked hard and been patient and kind. Today you and Tund celebrate the love that you have built together." As it got darker outside, the candles were lit, and the house became filled with soft, warm light. More and more people arrived. Tund's family members came too. His mother and father, his brothers and sisters, his aunts and uncles. The house was now very full. Everyone was dressed in their best clothes. The women wore beautiful wrappers and jewelry. The men wore nice shirts and traditional clothes. Then, around 7 o'clock, there was a moment of quiet excitement. Everyone was waiting. Waiting for Tund. Waiting for him to arrive so that the celebration could begin. Amara stood near the kitchen, her heart beating fast. She smoothed down her wrapper and touched her braids to make sure everything was perfect. Finally the door opened. Tund walked in and the room suddenly became quiet. He was wearing a striking indigo shirt with gold threading that caught the light from the candles. He looked so handsome, so strong, so confident. When he saw Amara, he smiled at her, and that smile reminded her of the day they got married. That same love, that same warmth in his eyes. She felt her heart fill up with joy and pride. This was the man she loved. This was her husband. This was their moment. Tund sat down at the head of the table and everyone else took their seats around it. The food was spread out in front of them. The golden jollof rice, the tender chicken and rich sauce, the fried plantains, the soup that smelled so good. Amara had worked so hard to prepare everything perfectly. She felt happy as she watched everyone begin to eat and talk and laugh together. The celebration was going well. Her family and Tund's family were all together, sharing food and joy. Amara sat next to Tund, and sometimes she would look at him and smile. He would smile back at her and she felt content. This was what she had wanted. This was what she had dreamed about. Everyone she loved in one place, celebrating the love that she and Tund had built together over 6 years. About halfway through the meal, Uncle Femi, Tund's oldest uncle, stood up from his seat. He had a glass of wine in his hand, and he looked around at everyone at the table. "I have something to say," Uncle Femi announced with a big smile. "I want to make a toast to celebrate 6 years of marriage for my nephew Tund and his beautiful wife Amara." Everyone stopped eating and looked up at Uncle Femi. They smiled and nodded, ready to hear the words that would honor this special day. But then Tund raised his hand and stood up himself. He gently pushed his chair back and moved to stand in the middle of the room where everyone could see him clearly. "Thank you, Uncle Femi," Tund said with a smile. "But I have something that I want to say myself. I want to make my own toast for this special occasion." He looked confident and sure of himself. He held up his glass of wine, and Amara felt her heart fill with excitement. Maybe he was going to say something romantic. Maybe he was going to tell everyone how much he loved her. Maybe he was going to thank her for standing by him all these years. Amara's mother reached over and squeezed her hand gently. Amara squeezed back, feeling tears of happiness beginning to form in her eyes. She looked at Tund, waiting to hear the words that he wanted to say to her in front of everyone. Tund cleared his throat. 6 years, he began, and his voice sounded warm and nice. 6 years have passed since I married this woman sitting here. He pointed toward Amara and everyone looked at her. She felt her face grow warm and she smiled, feeling a little bit shy with all the attention on her. 6 years is a long time, Tund continued. And marriage is not easy. Marriage requires patience. Marriage requires sacrifice. Marriage requires a man to give up much of himself for the sake of his wife and his family. He paused and took a sip of his wine. I have done all of these things. I have been patient. I have made sacrifices. Amara's smile began to fade a little. Something in his tone had changed. It was no longer warm and romantic. It sounded different now. It sounded like he was complaining about something. In fact, Tund said, and now he was looking directly at Amara, but his eyes were not kind anymore. In fact, I have given up so much that sometimes I wonder if it was worth it. He paused again and Amara felt her stomach become tight. When I married my wife, she was a different woman. She was beautiful. She was thin. She was energetic. She had dreams, yes, but they were small dreams. She was happy to be at home with her husband. Amara felt her face grow very hot. She looked down at her hands in her lap. She could feel everyone's eyes on her now, but not in the way that felt good. There was something else in the room now. Something uncomfortable. Something that made people shift in their seats. But now, Tun said, and his voice had a sharp edge to it, now she has changed. She has let herself go. Look at her. She does not look like she did 6 years ago. She has become someone that I do not recognize anymore. He said these words as if Amara was not sitting right there next to him. As if she could not hear every single word he was saying about her body, about her appearance. Amara felt tears beginning to burn in her eyes. She blinked them back, not wanting to cry, not wanting to make a scene. But her hands began to shake under the table. And that is not all, Tun continued. His voice was getting louder now, and he was getting more animated, more excited. She spends all her time with her mother. All of her time. She is always running to her mother's house. She never has time for me anymore. She is always busy with her mother and her mother's problems and her mother's friends. Amara wanted to stand up and leave. But she could not move. She felt frozen in her seat like she was trapped. Her mother was looking at her with shock and pain in her eyes. Her father's jaw was clenched tight, and his hands were folded on the table in front of him. And then there are her dreams, Tun said, and now he sounded angry. She wants to start a business. She wants to sell cloth. She wants to make money. She thinks she needs to work all the time. She thinks she needs to go to the market every single day. But a wife should focus on her home. A wife should focus on her husband. Her job is to take care of me and our home, not to fill her head with these big, burdensome dreams. The room was very quiet now. No one was eating. No one was talking. Everyone was just listening to Tun say these terrible things about his wife on their anniversary. Do you know what it takes to stay married to a woman like this? Tun asked, and he was smiling now, but it was not a real smile. It was a cruel smile. Do you know what kind of man it takes? He reached under the table, and when his hand came back up, he was holding something. A large t-shirt folded up. He unfolded it slowly, and on the front of the shirt, written in big bold letters, were the words, "I'm still married to her because I'm a saint." For a moment there was complete silence. Then some people began to laugh. It was nervous laughter, uncomfortable laughter, but it was laughter. The kind of laughter that people make when they are embarrassed and do not know what else to do. But Amara could not laugh. She could not move. She could not breathe. She felt like the whole world was spinning around her. This man, the man she had loved for 6 years, the man she had supported through every difficulty, the man she had sacrificed so much for, he had just humiliated her in front of everyone. In front of her parents. In front of her sister. In front of his own family. In front of the entire community. She looked down at her hands and she could see them shaking. Tears were now pouring down her face, hot and fast. She tried to wipe them away with the back of her hand, but more came. She felt like she could not breathe. She felt like her heart was breaking into 1,000 pieces right there at the table. Her mother reached over and grabbed her hand tightly. But Amara could not look at her mother's face. She could not bear to see the pain and disappointment there. She could not bear to see what her mother was thinking, that this was the man her daughter had married. That this was the man she had defended and supported and loved. Tun sat back down in his chair as if he had done nothing wrong. As if he had not just destroyed something beautiful and real and true. He looked around at the people at the table, and some people were looking down. Some people were looking away. Some people were still laughing that uncomfortable, nervous laughter. Amara sat very still. Her heart was broken. Her pride was destroyed. Her love, or what she thought was love, had been crushed into dust right before her eyes. And in that moment, on what was supposed to be the happiest day of her marriage, she began to understand that everything had changed. Everything was different now. And she did not know if she could ever forgive what had just happened in this room. That night, after everyone had left the house, Amara did not go to bed. She sat in the darkness of their bedroom, listening to Tun snore beside her. His arm was draped across the pillow as if nothing had happened. As if he had not just broken her heart in front of everyone she loved. She stared at the ceiling and tried to understand what had just occurred. How could the man she loved have said such cruel things to her? How could he have humiliated her like that? The hours passed slowly. 1 o'clock came and went. Then 2 o'clock. Then 3. Amara did not sleep at all. She just lay there in the darkness thinking about everything that Tun had said. She thought about his words about her appearance. She thought about how he had complained about her time with her mother. She thought about how he had made fun of her dreams and her ambitions. But the more she thought about these things, the more she began to realize something. None of these complaints were new. None of these complaints were true. She had not changed so much in 6 years. Her appearance was still the same. Her love for her mother had always been there. Tund had known this when he married her. And her dreams about starting a business. These were dreams that she had told him about many times before. He had always said that they were good dreams. He had said he supported her. So why had he said all these terrible things? Why had he chosen their anniversary to attack her like this? The more Amara thought about it, the more confused and hurt she felt. Her hands continued to shake even though it was now very late in the night. Her eyes were sore from crying, but she still could not sleep. When the sun began to rise, Amara made a decision. She could not stay in this house anymore. Not tonight. She needed to get away from Tund. She needed to be with her family. She needed to be somewhere where she could think clearly and figure out what to do next. Very quietly, so that she would not wake Tund, Amara got out of bed. She changed out of her beautiful anniversary wrapper and into a simple dress. She put her hair into a simple scarf. She picked up a small bag and put a few things into it, just enough for a few days. She did not know how long she would be away. She did not know if she would ever come back. Amara walked out of the house just as the sun was beginning to rise. The air was cool and fresh. Some birds were singing in the trees. It was a beautiful morning, but Amara could not enjoy it. Her heart was too heavy. She walked through the quiet streets of the town, heading toward her mother's house. Her mother lived about 15 minutes away on the other side of the market. As Amara walked, she passed some early morning traders who were beginning to set up their stalls for the day. Some of them recognized her and tried to greet her, but Amara just gave them a small nod. She did not feel like talking to anyone right now. When she reached her mother's house, the sun was just beginning to fully rise. She could see smoke coming from the kitchen where her mother was probably already preparing breakfast. Amara knocked on the door and after a moment, her mother opened it. Her mother's face changed immediately when she saw Amara standing there. She could tell right away that something was wrong. Without saying anything, her mother reached out and pulled Amara into her arms. "Come inside, my daughter," she said softly. "Come inside and sit down." Amara went inside and sat down on a wooden bench in the main room. Her mother brought her a cup of water and sat down beside her. They sat in silence for a moment. Then her mother began to speak. "I saw what happened last night," her mother said gently. "I saw what your husband did to you. I saw how he spoke to you in front of everyone." Amara began to cry again. She had thought maybe she was finished crying, but she was not. She cried, and her mother held her hand and did not say anything. Sometimes, Amara understood there were no words that could make things better. Sometimes you just needed to cry. By the middle of the morning, Amara's father had arrived. He had heard what had happened and he looked very angry. His jaw was tight and his eyes were dark. "This is not acceptable," he said to Amara. "What your husband did last night was not acceptable. A man does not speak to his wife like that. A man does not humiliate his wife in front of her family." Later that day, Amara's uncles came to her mother's house. They sat in a circle and talked about what needed to be done. They decided that they would visit Tund and confront him about his behavior. They decided that they would try to understand why he had done this terrible thing. When her uncles arrived at Tund's house that afternoon, Tund was waiting for them. He looked nervous. He knew that what he had done was wrong, even if he was not ready to admit it. The uncles sat down with him and they spoke to him in serious voices. "What you did last night was shameful," one uncle said. "You disrespected your wife. You disrespected her family. You disrespected yourself. A man does not treat his wife like this." Tund began to apologize immediately. "I am so sorry," he said. "I made a terrible mistake. It was just a joke. I did not mean for it to hurt her so much. I was just trying to be funny. I was trying to make people laugh." But the uncles were not satisfied with this explanation. "A joke that hurts your wife is not a joke," another uncle said. "A joke that humiliates her in front of everyone is not funny. You need to understand the pain that you have caused." Tund tried to explain himself more. He said that he had been feeling stressed. He said that he had been feeling like his wife did not appreciate him. He said that he had wanted to make people laugh and feel good. But none of these explanations made sense to the uncles. And they certainly did not make sense to Amara, who was staying in her mother's house and waiting to hear what would happen. When the uncles returned and told Amara what Tund had said, she felt even more confused and hurt. He claimed it was just a joke? How could publicly humiliating her, saying cruel things about her body and her dreams and her family, be just a joke? How could he expect her to believe that he had not meant to hurt her when every word had been so carefully chosen? Days passed. Tund sent messages asking Amara to come back home. He sent flowers. He sent gifts. He kept saying that it was just a joke and that he was sorry. But Amara was not ready to forgive him. She was not ready to go back. Instead, she stayed at her mother's house and began to think very carefully about her marriage. She thought about all the good times and all the hard times. She thought about how much she had loved him and how much she had sacrificed for him. And she began to ask herself a very difficult question. She asked herself why a man who loved her would wound her so deeply and so publicly on the day that was supposed to celebrate their love. She did not have an answer to this question yet. But she knew that she needed to find one before she could decide what to do next. Amara had been staying at her mother's house for almost 2 weeks now. Every day she would wake up and help her mother with the household tasks. She would sweep the floors and wash the clothes. She would help prepare meals and go to the market. But even as she did these things, her mind was always thinking about Tund. She was always wondering what he was doing. She was always wondering if he was thinking about her too. She had not seen him since the night of the anniversary. She had not spoken to him. She had only received his messages and his gifts, which she had not opened. Her family had told her to take her time. They had told her not to rush into making any decisions. But Amara felt confused and tired. She did not know what she wanted to do. One afternoon, Amara was sitting on the porch of her mother's house with her younger sister Zainab. They were shelling peas together, and Zainab was telling her about things that had happened in the town while Amara had been away. But then Zainab suddenly stopped talking. She put down the peas and looked at Amara with a very serious expression on her face. "Amara," Zainab said quietly, "I need to tell you something. I have been trying to decide whether to tell you or not, but I think you need to know. I think you have a right to know the truth." Amara felt her heart begin to beat faster. She looked at her sister's face, and she could see that Zainab was struggling with whether to say what she needed to say. "What is it?" Amara asked. "What do I need to know?" Zainab took a deep breath. "It is about Tund," she said. "I have seen him with another woman. I have seen him many times at the market with a woman named Blessing. She is a trader who came to our town a few months ago. I have seen them talking together. I have seen them walking together. And Amara, the way they look at each other, it is not the way that a man looks at a woman just as a friend." Amara felt like all the air had left her body. "What?" she whispered. "Are you sure?" "I am very sure," Zainab said. "I have seen them together many times. They go to a quiet place near the river, away from where everyone can see them. I have seen them there holding hands. I have seen them sitting very close to each other. I think Tund has been seeing this woman for months now." Amara stood up from her chair. The peas fell onto the ground. She felt like the world was spinning. Everything suddenly made sense now. The cruel things he had said on their anniversary. The way he had attacked her about her appearance and her dreams. The way he had humiliated her in front of everyone. It was not really about her at all. It was about him. It was about another woman. "Are you certain?" Amara asked again. She needed to hear it again. She needed to make sure that this was real. "Yes," Zainab said. "I am certain. I would not tell you this if I was not completely certain. I know you and I love you. I could not let you think that this was your fault when it is not. I could not let you stay confused and hurt if I knew something that could help you understand what is really happening." Amara went back inside the house and sat down. Her mother came out of the kitchen and saw Amara's face. She immediately knew that something was wrong. "What happened?" her mother asked. "What is the matter?" Amara told her mother what Zainab had just told her. She told her about the other woman. She told her about Blessing. And as she told the story, she began to understand everything. She began to understand why Tund had been so cruel. She began to understand why he had attacked her about things that should not have mattered. He was trying to push her away. He was trying to make her leave him. He was trying to create a reason for their marriage to end. By that evening, Amara's father and uncles had come back to the house. Amara told them what she had learned. She could see the anger and disappointment in their faces. They had come to defend her honor, and now they had even more reason to be angry. The next day the uncles went to Tund's house again. This time they did not come alone. They brought Amara's father with them. When they arrived, they were very serious and very direct. They told Tund what they had learned. They asked him if it was true that he had been seeing another woman named Blessing. At first Tund denied it. He said that they were lying. He said that Zainab had made up a story to make trouble for him. But the uncles were very firm. They told him that they had their own information. They told him that multiple people had seen him with this woman. And finally, after much questioning, Tund admitted the truth. Yes, he said. Yes, he had been seeing Blessing. He had been seeing her for about 4 months. He said that he did not know how it had happened. He said that it had started as just a friendship. But then it had become more. He said that he had feelings for Blessing. He said that he felt trapped in his marriage to Amara. He said that he felt like he could not be himself with her. He said that Amara was too focused on her family and her mother and her dreams. He said that she did not pay enough attention to him. When Amara heard all of this, she felt something change inside her. The hurt was still there, but now it was mixed with anger and with clarity. She realized something very important. She realized that none of this was her fault. She had not done anything wrong. She had loved Tund. She had supported him. She had sacrificed for him. And he had betrayed her. The uncles asked Tund why he had been so cruel to Amara on their anniversary night if he had been seeing another woman. Why had he humiliated her? Why had he attacked her so publicly? Tund was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that made everything clear. He said that he had wanted to push Amara away. He said that he had felt trapped, and he wanted to create a situation where she would leave him. He said that he did not have the courage to talk to her honestly about his feelings. He said that it was easier to be cruel to her than to have a real conversation about their problems. The uncles looked at Tund with disgust. They told him that this was cowardly behavior. They told him that a man does not treat his wife like this. They told him that if he was unhappy in his marriage, he should have spoken about it like a man. He should have gone to his family and to her family. He should have tried to work things out. Instead, he had chosen cruelty. He had chosen to wound his wife. He had chosen to humiliate her in front of everyone. When the uncles returned to tell Amara what Tund had said, Amara felt like a heavy weight had been lifted from her shoulders. It was not her fault. It was not because she had gained weight. It was not because she spent time with her mother. It was not because she had dreams about starting a business. It was because Tund was a coward. It was because he did not have the strength to be honest with her. It was because he chose to hurt her instead of talking to her. Amara realized that she had been asking herself the wrong question. She had been asking why a man who loved her would wound her so deeply. But the real answer was that a man who truly loved her would never wound her like that. A man who truly loved her would never choose cruelty over honesty. A man who truly loved her would never humiliate her in front of everyone she cared about. For the first time since that terrible anniversary night, Amara felt like she could breathe again. The problem was not her. The problem was him. And that understanding changed everything. Amara spent many days at her mother's house thinking about what she should do. She had now been away from Tund for almost a month. Her family had been very supportive, but they were also waiting to see what decision she would make. Some of her aunts thought that she should go back to Tund and try to make the marriage work. They said that divorce was shameful in their culture. They said that a woman should always try to save her marriage. But her mother had different words for her. One afternoon, Amara and her mother sat together under the big tree in the backyard. The sun was warm and a cool breeze moved through the leaves. Her mother reached over and held Amara's hand. "My daughter," her mother said, "I want you to know that whatever you decide, I will support you. But I also want to tell you something very important." Amara looked at her mother and waited to hear what she had to say. "A woman's worth is not measured by her tolerance of cruelty," her mother said firmly. "A woman's worth is not measured by her willingness to stay in a situation that hurts her. A woman's worth comes from inside herself. It comes from her strength. It comes from her character. It comes from her ability to love and to work and to dream. No man should be able to take that away from you." Her mother squeezed her hand tightly. "I have lived for many years," her mother continued. "I have seen many things. I have seen women who stayed in bad marriages because they thought that was what they were supposed to do. I have seen them become smaller and smaller, until they almost disappeared. I do not want that to happen to you. I do not want you to disappear." Amara felt tears beginning to form in her eyes, but these were different tears. These were not tears of sadness or pain. These were tears of relief. These were tears that came from hearing words that she needed to hear. "What do you think I should do?" Amara asked her mother. Her mother was quiet for a moment. "I think you should do what feels right in your heart," her mother said. "I think you should not do what other people tell you to do. I think you should make a choice that is right for you and for your own life. Not for Tund. Not for your aunts. Not for our family's reputation. For you." After that conversation, Amara spent several more days thinking. She thought about everything that had happened. She thought about the good times with Tund and the bad times. She thought about whether she could ever trust him again. She thought about whether she could ever look at him the same way that she had before. And after many days of thinking, Amara made her decision. She decided that she would not go back to Tund. She decided that she would ask for a separation. It was not a divorce, she was not ready for that yet. But it was a clear statement that she could not continue to live with him as his wife. It was a clear boundary. When Amara told her family about her decision, there were mixed reactions. Some people were sad. Some people were angry at Tund. But most importantly, her mother and her father supported her completely. Her father told her, "You are my daughter and I love you. I will always love you. And I will always stand beside you in whatever you decide." Now that Amara had made her decision, she needed to figure out what to do with her life. She could not stay at her mother's house forever. She needed to have her own purpose. She needed to have her own work. And this was when she thought about something that she had been dreaming about for a long time, the textile business. Before she married Tund, Amara had always loved working with cloth. She loved the colors and the patterns. She loved the way that different fabrics felt in her hands. She had always wanted to start a business where she could buy cloth from traders and sell it to other women in the town. But when she married Tund, she had put that dream aside. She had focused on being a wife and taking care of her home. Now she decided that it was time to bring that dream back to life. Amara went to her mother and told her about the idea. Her mother's face lit up with joy. "This is perfect," her mother said. "I have always believed in this dream of yours. I have always known that you would be very good at this business. And now you can do it." Amara and her mother began to work together. They used some money that Amara had saved over the years. They went to the market and began to buy cloth from different traders. They started small with just a small stall in the market. But Amara worked very hard. She would wake up early and arrange her cloth beautifully. She would talk to customers and learn what kinds of cloth they liked. She would offer them good prices and good quality. And slowly more and more people began to come to her stall. As the months passed, Amara's business began to grow. She began to make good money. She began to feel proud of herself. She began to feel like she had a purpose in her life that was separate from being someone's wife. She began to feel strong again. During this time, Amara did not see Tund. They did not speak to each other. But she heard through family members that he had made some changes in his life. She heard that he had stopped seeing blessing. She heard that he was spending more time thinking about what he had done. She heard that he was very sad and that he wanted to see her. After about 6 months, Tund reached out to Amara's father and asked if he could speak with her. Amara was nervous about this. She did not know if she was ready to see him. But she decided that she should at least hear what he had to say. So she agreed to meet with him, but only with her father present. When Tund came to her mother's house, Amara could see that he had changed. He looked thinner. He looked sadder. He looked like someone who had been suffering. But Amara did not feel sorry for him. She felt that he deserved to suffer for what he had done. Tund told Amara that he had been going to see a counselor. He told her that the counselor had helped him understand many things about himself. He told her that he realized now that he had been very wrong. He told her that the problem was not her. The problem was him. He told her that he had been running away from his problems instead of facing them like a man. Then Tund gave Amara a letter. He told her that he had written down his thoughts and his feelings. He told her that he was not asking her to forgive him. He told her that he was not asking her to come back to him. He told her that he was just asking her to read what he had written and to know that he understood what he had done wrong. Amara took the letter. She did not open it right then. She waited until Tund had left the house. Then she sat down alone and read what he had written. In the letter, Tund apologized for everything that he had done. He apologized for the cruel things he had said. He apologized for publicly humiliating her. He apologized for not being honest with her about his feelings. He apologized for choosing cruelty instead of communication. He wrote about how much he regretted his actions. He wrote about how he understood that he had betrayed her trust. He wrote about how he was trying to become a better man. At the end of the letter, he wrote, "I do not expect your forgiveness. I do not expect you to ever come back to me. I only want you to know that I understand what I have done and I am sorry. I want you to know that you were right to leave. You deserve to be with someone who will love you and respect you and never hurt you. If that person is not me, then I am glad that you have the strength to find someone else. I wish you all the best in your life and in your business." Amara kept the letter. She read it several times. It made her feel many different things. It made her feel sad. It made her feel angry. But it also made her feel something else. It made her feel like maybe, just maybe, Tund was beginning to understand what he had done. But understanding was not the same as forgiveness. And forgiveness was not the same as getting back together. Amara realized that she did not know yet if she could ever forgive him. She realized that she did not know yet if she wanted to try to save the marriage. What she did know was that she had choices now. She had options. She could forgive him or not forgive him. She could try again or she could move on with her life. Whatever she decided to do, it would be her decision. It would be made because she wanted to make it, not because anyone else told her to make it. And that, Amara realized, was the most important thing of all. That was the real strength. That was the real victory. The victory was not about whether she forgave Tund or whether she went back to him. The victory was about the fact that she had the power to make her own choices. The victory was about the fact that she had reclaimed her own life. So Amara continued to work in her textile business. She continued to grow stronger every day. And she held on to the letter from Tund, not as a sign of hope for their marriage, but as a sign of something she had learned about herself. She had learned that she was strong enough to leave a bad situation. She was strong enough to stand up for herself. She was strong enough to build a new life. And whatever choices she would make in the future, they would be choices made with dignity and with strength and with love for herself.